Hello and welcome to another video. This video is going to be about me suffering to find my anaerobic threshold. This is not going to be fun. This is going to hurt a lot, but I will learn something and be stronger for it, so I guess that's good. Yeah. Oh, that's not good. So I'm just about to start my anaerobic self-assessment. I have eaten a somewhat full meal about an hour and 45 minutes ago. I have 500 mils of water with me and a few hundred calories in snacks because this is going to be very hard. So specifically, I'm looking for the point where I transition into zone 4. As I've discussed in my previous video about heart rate zones, it's on this side, somewhere up here, you'll find the link to my video about heart rate zones. So far I've identified what my aerobic threshold is. I did that in my last video. You can watch that somewhere up here. And now I'm going to be looking for my anaerobic threshold, which is the other anchor point that we need to fully set up all of our heart rate zones. I'm looking for the highest heart rate that I can sustain for half an hour to an hour. So I've spent the majority of my time doing base training, so I haven't worked too much on my aerobic threshold over the last year. I've really been focusing on my base. And what that's done is that's given me a very high aerobic threshold of 165 beats per minute. So what this means is because I put time into working on my aerobic threshold, I haven't spent any time or very little time on my anaerobic threshold. Usually I would do a tempo run maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on how I'm feeling. So I really haven't worked too much on my anaerobic threshold. Now, one of the byproducts of this is one of the weaknesses that I have as a runner is that I have not worked on my high-end muscular endurance as much as an athlete who has worked on more tempo runs and more higher output running. But to maximize my endurance potential, I need to first start with working on my aerobic base, which I've now done, and I have a very small gap between what I believe is my lactate threshold and my aerobic threshold. It's way less than 10%, it's about 5%. So that means that it's time for me to start working on my tempo runs and my higher end muscular endurance. But I need to be able to pinpoint exactly what my lactate threshold is to work on this in an informed manner so that I can track my progress efficiently and effectively. What we're going to do is do a run on the treadmill. First, I'm going to warm up below my aerobic threshold, which for me is 165 beats per minute, starting from walking, slowly going until I reach my aerobic threshold. Then, like I said, because I haven't spent much time working on my tempo runs, I am fairly unaccustomed to long outputs at high heart rates. So training for the uphill athlete recommends that for someone who doesn't have a lot of training in this realm, use a 30-minute test interval. You run as hard as you can for that 30 minutes, maintaining the output over that time, and you look at the average heart rate during that interval. And when we have a look at that average heart rate during that interval of maximum effort, that will give us a pretty good idea of what our anaerobic threshold is, or our lactate threshold. But the last time I did a lactate test, a guided lactate test with my watch, was a while ago, and what it found is that my Garmin watch believes that my lactate threshold is 176 beats per minute. Now, I know when I'm running at 176 beats per minute, it's not fun, especially if I'm holding that for around half an hour, which I have done before. So I'm going to try to get slightly above that and see if I can maintain it for half an hour. Now, I'm expecting my heart rate to drift over this interval. So if I start at 176, my average heart rate should be higher than that during the interval. So I will target to start at 176 and we'll see where my heart rate ends up during the interval. We take the average and we'll call that my lactate threshold. Now there's other ways of doing these threshold tests. Training for the Uphill Athlete has great sections in the book as well as their website on how you can do this. Some of them include paid lab tests. Others include getting a lactate measuring device and taking blood samples while you're doing your tests and checking to see what the concentration of lactate in your blood is during various outputs. But I don't have that, and that's expensive. But this treadmill I have, which is also expensive, but I already have it. So you can also do this test outside. If you're a well-trained athlete, you can do it on a flat surface. If you're more of a beginner, I'm into this only for about a year of running, so I consider myself a beginner. This treadmill goes up to 15% incline, so we're going to put it on the maximum to simulate a steep hill, and I'm going to play around with the speed to get my heart rate up to about 176, and then I'm going to run at that output for half an hour, and we'll watch my heart rate drift, and we'll watch me suffer for that period of time. I haven't done any hard runs in 3 days. I was in my zone 4 3 days ago for about 10 minutes. And I took a rest day yesterday, so hopefully I'm fully recovered from that. I think it's worth talking about what I think is going to happen over the course of the half hour where I'm actually running really hard. So obviously I'm going to be in my zone 4. Legs are going to feel heavy. It's going to be hard to keep them turning over. And as time goes on, obviously lactate's going to accumulate in my muscles, so I'm going to get burning. Over the course of the half hour, that burning will become very painful. Homeostasis will be telling me to stop doing what I'm doing because it's hurting me, and the pain will only get worse. So at the beginning, my breathing is going to be very labored. It's going to be hard for me to get into a good rhythm. Once I find that good rhythm, and my anaerobic system's fully online, my breathing will smooth out and become more manageable and comfortable, probably for the middle section of the interval. And then I'm expecting for the last 5 to 10 minutes of the interval, I'm expecting to have trouble breathing. I'm expecting it to feel like I'm gasping for air and I can't get enough oxygen. That's of course a lie. Lungs can diffuse enough oxygen into my bloodstream, more than enough oxygen into my bloodstream. The actual issue is that my muscles aren't good enough to uptake it, and it's just a homeostatic response trying to slow me down and stop me from doing what I'm doing. So I will have to mentally push through those boundaries and those lies that my brain is telling me to try to tell me to stop, and to get me to stop, I'll have to push through those and convince it that it's okay and I will survive. Okay, so I've been warming up for about 10 minutes. I'm noticing a bit of tightness in my left Achilles. I just started sweating, so that means that my aerobic system's online. So I'm gonna hop off and do some dynamic stretches. See if I can deal with this Achilles tightness, and then I'll hop back on, do another 10-minute warm-up, and then hop into the test at my lactate threshold. Oh, that's not good. I didn't finish. My chest completely cramped up. Oh, it's excruciating. I did 22 minutes at 180 beats per minute. And my lungs gave up. It hurts to inhale. It's not going away. It never goes away. It hurts more than the marathon. So obviously I did not complete the test. I only did 22 minutes at the target heart rate. I wasn't mentally ready for that. About 17 minutes into it, I started wishing that it was over. And of course, those negative thoughts impact your performance. There's no way around that. So then I tried to just forget about what I was doing and forget about the pain. And obviously it wasn't enough. It was interesting though, because right before I started cramping, I believed that I could do it. I believed I could handle the lactate pain. I convinced myself that I would finish. And then right as I did that, I don't know what happened, but I got this tremendous cramp. And once I felt that start, I knew I couldn't work through it. And it still hurts now. It's been about 10 minutes since I stopped, and it still hurts a lot. It hurts to breathe. I can't take deep breaths yet. So we definitely learned some things here. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it wasn't pleasant, but it's not supposed to be. To hold an output that high for that long is really hard. And I don't spend much time in that zone. So my lungs aren't used to having that high respiration rate for such a long period of time. I think that's good, because when you train in this heart rate zone, you see really fast results. I can't do another run of any of this magnitude for at least another week. So I think what I'm going to do is I still might do a base run today because I love base training. I think what I'll do is do recovery runs tomorrow and the following day, and then I'm going to do probably some intervals around 180 beats per minute, because I know I can maintain that. And if it wasn't for the cramp, I know I could have maintained that for another 8 minutes, but obviously I'm not going to end the test there because I didn't do the half hour, so how I can't say for sure. Man, that still really hurts. God, I really wish I could have finished that, because I don't want to do this again, but obviously I should. Recover from this, then do probably a couple of maybe 10 or 15 minute intervals at this heart rate outside. And it's harder mentally to do it outside because the ground, you have to push yourself to maintain the heart rate, as opposed to this where you just set the treadmill and then you just have to keep up with it. So I find it mentally harder to keep a high heart rate outside. So I will do a little bit of training for the next test. The longest I've ever maintained my heart rate at 180 was maybe 3-4 minutes. So to do it for that long was a big training load. So the next step is to train it a little bit, and then it's more to train my lungs and my diaphragm and my intercostal muscles to be able to handle the respiration load. And then I will come back and do this test, and damn it, I'm going to get my 180 beats per minute because I believe I can do that. But yeah, so now I'm just rambling because I'm still catching my breath. I'm gonna go eat some food and recover from that because that was hard. And I'll see you next time that I try to suffer again. You guys just love watching me suffer, don't you?